baby, this morning. This is Elio Piedra. Another morning means another coffee because this is Morning Coffee with Elio. This is going to be a great day. We have a fantastic guest. Get up, baby, this morning. This is Elio Piedra. Another morning means another coffee because this is Morning Coffee with Elio. I am super excited today. I am beyond grateful, honored, and humble for having the opportunity to have the great and the amazing guest that I have for you guys today. And you know, before I introduce my guest, let me tell you today's topic, the topic of the day. It is awesome. And I want you guys to get the most out of it. And before I mention the topic, I wanna citate a quote by John Maxwell that he says, "Most people, they don't lead their life, they accept their life." All right. So today we're gonna be talking about how we can keep working on ourselves so we don't become victims of COVID-19. And my guest, it is an amazing individual that I have here. Oh my goodness, I am so excited. I am super excited to introduce my guest. So he is a consultant and coach to organizations worldwide, from startups to the Fortune 10. John is dedicated to helping people and businesses be more successful by making the very complex awesomely simple. John's areas of expertise include leadership, high-performance teams, managing change, organizational culture, consultative selling, strategic planning, and strategy execution, and the future of business. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome to Morning Coffee with Elliot, the great John Spence.
Thank you, hello. I got three amazings. I feel good about that. That's the most amazing I've ever gotten one intro. So this is good.
How are you doing, John?
I am awesome. How are you today?
I am better than I deserve. Oh my gosh. I am super excited to have you here. And, you know, and I am sure that we are going to be having another amazing for you, an amazing experience, and it's going to be epic and remarkable, especially for me, by having the honor of spending this time with you, learning. I am actually learning a lot every time I had the opportunity to read your books, to watch you online, to have you on the show for the second time now, but for the first time ever at Morning Coffee. But we had the opportunity actually to share the stage with John virtually, an online conference that I was helping to produce. So from now on, we're going to be talking about how you can keep working on yourself so you don't become a victim of COVID-19. So what can you say to our Morning Coffee community about working on the self to keep developing strategies emotionally in every single way?
Cool. So we're going to start off with a couple of things. I'm going to go through some personal stuff, a little business stuff, and then we'll have a discussion after that. I think right now, and I'm, again, as you mentioned, I'm coaching several CEOs and senior managers. And one of the most important workshops I've had them do is to sit down and on one piece of paper, write out everything they can control, impact, or influence. And be very clear about this. I mean, sit down and really be thoughtful about what can I actually control in my life? What can I change? What can I impact or influence? And I have them write that down. And the list is not very long. There's maybe only a dozen things tops that you can control. Then I say in another piece of paper, I want you to write down everything you cannot control. And that list is very long. And it starts with COVID-19. You can't control that. You can't control the quarantine. You can't control the economy. You can't control the government, and on and on and on and on. And there's a lot of things on that list. And then my advice to them is study both of these lists carefully. And when you start obsessing and worrying and getting anxiety and stress on the list of stuff you can't control, push it away, let go of it. You can't do anything about that. and then look over at the list of stuff that you can do and focus intently on that. This is before your time, but you might remember a little bit Hurricane Andrew when it went through Miami and wiped out everything. And I lived on the coast in Miami, and my house, I lost everything I own in the world, everything. I escaped, went inland. The house that I went to, the roof blew off at 3 o'clock in the morning with 12 of us huddled in there. I ended up living in my truck for almost 4 months. And you know that what it taught me? There was a lot of stuff I couldn't control, and I just had to let go of it and put my head down and do the stuff that I could control. Another big lesson I learned is it was just stuff. That when everything you own in the world is taken away from you, you get a lot more gratitude for the simple things. And I think that's part of what we're doing now is a lot of the CEOs I coach, I ask them to do a gratitude exercise every morning. To stand, the first thing in the morning, just put your feet on the floor, sit in the bed or sit down for a minute and take 10 or 15 minutes to make a list in your mind or written of what are you grateful for? What are you happy for? And that gets your day off to a start of focusing on the good things, not focusing on all the bad things. So we've got the 2 lists, stuff I can control, stuff I can't control, and then the gratitude exercise. So let's back up for a second and talk about what we can control in our business. And there's only 4 or 5 things. If you own a business and you've got employees, right now you need to take the best care of your employees you've ever done in your entire career. Tell them you appreciate them, celebrate them, give them all the training and resources and help and support you possibly can to allow them to do great work. So let them know, I'm happy you're on the team. I'm happy you're here. I really appreciate it, because your people are going to carry you through your success. And if it's only you, appreciate yourself. Take good care of yourself. I've got 3 people on my staff. I've had hundreds on my staffs and other companies I've run, but I didn't even realize how much it is important to appreciate the people you work with. So that's number 1. Number 2, which leads right into that, is do the best work you've ever done. Get your people set up to truly, and I talked to one of the CEOs I'm coaching the other day, and he said, under the pressure and under the stress, my management team and my company is doing the best work we've ever done. Because it's a shame that we had to get into this situation to get there, but we are truly moving towards world class. And every organization needs to do that. When I was coaching a lot of CEOs and working with companies and consulting with companies during the Great Recession, that was one of the things we said, because your happy customers, the ones you take care of now, 2 things. They will remember how you treated them now for years after this. If you took care of them and you added value and you were focused on them, they're gonna remember that, and they will become your sales force, because it's really, really hard to sell right now. But if your happy customers go out and tell their friends, colleagues, their customers how great you are, they can sell for you. Very hard for you to sell directly to people, which leads me to the next one. So we have take great care of your people, do the best work you've ever done in the history of your company. Number 3 is get the closest to your customers you've ever been. Pick up another, again, I have one of the folks I'm working with had 181 clients across the United States. He picked up the phone and called every single one of them. And he asked them a couple of questions, which I think are really powerful for helping a business. Question number 1 was, of course, how are you doing? How's your family? How are you holding up? Number 2, he asked them on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being awesome and 1 being really nervous, really, where do you see yourself in the next 3 months in your business? And that gave them an idea of people that were doing good, because there's plenty of businesses right now that are doing great. They're having the best business, the best sales, the most money they've ever made. It's not a lot, but there is a group in the economy that is absolutely crushing it right now. There's a huge group of people that were in the 3 range or the 4 range of very nervous, very scared. And then his last question is, what can we do to help you? How can we support you? What other ideas? And they all had a brief conversation. Well, he actually got emails back from plenty of them, and a couple of them, did a little FaceTime thing and said, you're the only vendor that called us. You're the only vendor that cared about us. No matter how much cuts we do, you're going to be the last one we cut, because you're taking such good care of us. So the goal here is right now is get really close to your customers. Talk to them, survey them, social media, whatever you can, without driving them crazy, but show them that you care. And it isn't about selling stuff to them. It's about adding value any way you possibly can. The 4th and final one on that is keep an eye on your numbers. Right now, a lot of businesses are struggling financially, and we might talk about that a little bit later. But you need to be calm when you make financial decisions. The last thing you want to do is wait until it's too late, and then all of a sudden your hair's on fire. You're running around. You're making knee-jerk decisions. You're spending money. You're cutting people or whatever without really thinking it through. So my strongest advice, again, I'm doing a lot. I'm helping a lot of companies right now. We are trying to look out 4 to 6 months and make the decisions now about layoffs then, about clients then. I don't know that we'll be 100% right, but we're setting numbers. If sales drop to this, if revenue drops to that, if profitability drops to this, this is where the first rounds of layoffs will start. The reverse is, if revenues start to climb like this is when we'll add more salespeople. We'll hire back more salespeople. So we made those decisions yesterday for June and July of this year. May change in time, but at least we're not being emotional about it, like running and saying, we got to save money, fire the sales force. So those are the things I think you can control in your business. Now let's go to the part on emotions, because this is one of the hardest parts. A lot of us that are business owners, and I've been the owner, CEO of 6 companies, 3 of them multinational. So I've run a lot of businesses, worked in a lot of businesses. A lot of us that do that are used to fixing stuff. Make this decision, be decisive, fix this, change that, get this project, pull this out. Here's something really important. You can't fix this. This is beyond your, the virus and all is beyond your control. This is not something you can control, which for many of us creates stress, anxiety, fear. So I'd like to take a minute and talk about the emotional roller coaster that you, your family, and all your employees are going through, and realize, it's strong. It's a very strong emotional response. Actually, it's the same response people go through when someone they love dies. When they're grieving the loss of a loved one, right now they're grieving the loss of their normalcy. They're grieving the loss of being able to see their friends. Some of them are grieving the loss of their businesses or their jobs. And when you go into something like that, it is really, really, really hard. Another thing about this is we didn't have time to prepare for it. It was just bam, it's on us. So like during the Great Recession and other things, you see them coming for weeks or months. You can start to prepare and get ready. And sometimes it's on a localized scale. This is global all of a sudden. This is, I hate the word, but unprecedented. So people are going to go through this cycle. So listen carefully for 2 or 3 reasons. One is for yourself. Where are you on this cycle? And understand that people go backwards and forwards. They'll go to one stage, go back. And then think carefully about your family, your people, your friends, and try to figure out where they are on this cycle. So here's the cycle. We start with stability. And believe it or not, 60 days ago, we were at pretty clear stability. I mean, it's hard to believe. It seems like 5 years ago, but it was only 2 months ago that things were pretty much the same. Then all of a sudden, the virus hit China. Then all of a sudden, it came to Europe and U.S. in a short span of time. And the next phase is immobilization. And a lot of people were there or are still there, just don't know what to do. They're totally freaked out. They don't know what actions to take. They don't know they're just totally overwhelmed. Then the next one, which is where I think a lot of people are getting into now, and I've seen it with the companies I'm working with, is denial. And denial that this is going to last more than a month. Denial that this could impact their business and their lives negatively for years. I heard last night, the mayor of LA and the mayor of New York say, we likely will not have any sporting events until 2021. A lot of people go, we'll be back for football season. It'll be fine. They're in denial about how big and how bad and how global this could be. The next stage, which I think we're moving to, and it scares me a great deal on a global scale, is anger. People are going to get really mad that their life has been basically taken away from them. The way they always lived, their money, their business, their health. And you're going to see a lot of folks angry, and they need a lot of help then. One of the things about this is you have to let people have these emotions. Their emotions for them are real. They are their emotions, and you can't argue with that. So we're going to go from denial to anger. Then after anger, and we're starting to see a little teeny bit of this, but not much, is bargaining or another word would be begging. I mean, this can't be happening to me. If I change this or do that, or maybe it'll get better, and I can get some help, or this, that, and the other. And they're trying to bargain with the virus, and the virus doesn't bargain back. Then we're going to drop off a cliff into depression. Again, the same cycle, grieving cycle. And here's what I want to say to folks is watch yourself and watch your family and watch your friends. When they start to pull back, they're not talking hopeful. They don't talk a lot about the future. You don't see them get motivated or committed, and they seem to be tired and sort of lethargic and not engaged. Ask for help. Ask for help. Go for, get your folks to mental health counselors. You go, ask each other, support each other. What I'm finding in a lot of companies is one person will be depressed one day, then they'll get better, and then someone else gets depressed on the management team, but they're supporting each other, and they're letting people have those depressed days. But if it stretches on for days into weeks, everybody pulls around them and says, let's get you some help. Let you talk to somebody. So we go down to depression. Then the next stage is we're going to go to testing. And testing is when we start, let's say everybody goes out with face masks on. We start going back and maybe going to a restaurant with other people in it, but socially distanced. Maybe going to not a big sporting event, but our kids' soccer game or something. If they, it's hard for me to imagine what that's going to be. But we'll begin to test the new normal, again, a word I hate. And then eventually that we will accept that new normal. It's not going to be anything like what we had now at Stability. When we get across this plane, this is going to be completely different than the way we were 6 months ago. And I don't believe in my lifetime, I'm 56, it will get anywhere close to back to that. There will be generational changes in attitude, actions, behaviors. A good example is you look at people who went through the Great Depression, they were scarred by that. And they had a completely different way of looking at life than me as a baby boomer, things like that. So that's the cycle. And then I'll share one last thing, and then we can go to a little Q&A and do some discussion stuff. When you see someone in that emotional cycle, it's important that you validate their emotions and don't argue with them. So there's a four-step process for helping people move through that emotionally. So you see someone who's struggling, they begin to vent or complain or worry or whine or whatever you might think it is. And the first thing you do is shut up and listen to them. Don't argue, don't defend, don't tell them they're wrong, don't try to rationalize, do nothing. Just give them your full attention and listen to this with the genuine intent to understand, to truly put yourself in their shoes and try to see where they're coming from and why they have those emotions. And even if you don't agree with them, big lesson I learned during 9/11, I was managing a couple of companies then, that 9/11 was horrific. But it wasn't like this. It was bad, but it wasn't personally, all of us in the country didn't feel personally threatened on the same day. But what I found out was a lot of people, their emotions exploded. And it was because they had baggage or pain or trauma. That's the word. They had trauma they'd been carrying with them from, relationships or jobs or childhood or whatever, it might be, divorce. And that trauma was sitting there. Then when 9/11 happened, they pulled all that trauma into the trauma of the experience of 9/11 and totally lost control of their emotions. I think we're going to see a lot of that coming up. You're going to see people who had a lot of trauma before they got here, taking their level of anxiety and stress and pain to a whole new level that's, again, very, very hard for them to deal with. So when that starts to come out, step number one, listen to them with a genuine intent to understand. Step number two is to validate their emotions. And again, even if you don't agree with them, but to say, I can see that you're overwhelmed and you're angry about the situation, and you have every right to be. Anyone in your place would be angry. I mean, you ran a great business and now it's gone with no fault of your own. You didn't do anything wrong and it's gone. That would make anybody angry. Or I can see you're very anxious. I mean, there's a lot of things happening. Folks in your family have tested positive. That's got to be scary. I get where you're coming from. Not, calm down. It's not that big of a deal. It'll be fun. When you do that, you invalidate people's emotions, and it actually creates more stress, more pain, more depression, and more anxiety. So I understand what you're going through. here's a big key idea to use with this is what's called I statements. Instead of saying you need to do this or you need to do that, you say, from my point of view, here's what it seems like is happening to you. This is what I think you're feeling, which leads me to the third step, which is offering advice, not giving it, offering it. Most people will say, yes, please give me your advice. A few people will say, no, I don't want any advice. I just need to talk this through. I talked to a CEO the other day. He said, I just called a vent. I need someone to just complain to for an hour, and you're the only one I can do it with. So I sat and listened to him and said, well, yeah, you're under a lot of pressure. You're under a lot of stress. You should feel this way. He's like, I should. Anyone would. So now when they say, yes, I'd like your advice, you again use the I statements. You don't say, you need to do this, you change this, you stop thinking that way. That's not a real emotion. You say, I've listened to you really carefully, and I can see that you're in a lot of stress. And when I've been under stress in the past, I've used these three things to help me get through it. Here's my advice. Don't do this. Don't do that. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. I tried not to do this. And I'm wondering if you think that might be helpful for you. And the other person says either no, and you give some more advice, or they go, yeah, I think that'd be real helpful. And you go, great. Then, I'm excited. You think that'll help? Which leads to the fourth and final step is revalidate their emotions and then revalidate the advice. So you go, well, I'm glad we talked all this through, and I know you're really anxious about this. You told me that at the beginning, and you still are, and you should be, and you have every right to feel that way. But I hope the things that we discussed that you decided to do will help you very much. And you notice that's all they own it now. It's like that I told you to know that you said you were going to do. So that is a problem. I don't have high EQ. I don't connect well with the emotions of other people. So I actually had to learn this framework and use it so that I could genuinely try to connect with other people. And it's not a technique. It's a framework to help people that don't normally deal well with emotions, deal better with other people's emotions. So let me stop there and let you ask a few questions, and we can do a little Q&A for a while.
Yes, yes. I mean, before we jump into the Q&A, I wanted to say that this is huge. I mean, it is absolutely, oh my gosh, huge. And it is amazing to me how you are teaching us all today about, first of all, how to focus, like being laser focused on what we can control, and just accepting that that's what really matters.
Yeah.
Because I always think that I always this is like a very small example, like when you have a table and the table is one of the four legs is broken. You say, if you focus on how to that energy, you use that energy on fixing that one leg instead of spending 10 minutes complaining. It becomes an opportunity, probably learning how to fix the leg of the table. It's kind of like that. It reminds me of these very small samples. And also these talking about emotions, this is super important to me, and I am learning so much. And I really hope that you that are watching are too, and I'm sure you, because the emotions are so deep these days, so deep, especially for those that the business owner, the business community, they are having the hardest time ever. At least the hardest time that I ever lived. All right. And for me, it's very special that we are sharing this content with them, so they can use this framework, is how you call it, right? Framework. Yeah. And to me, that's very fantastic. So I want to ask you this, John. I have a few questions for you, and is that you have 4 books. One of them is Awesomely Simple, Excellence by Design, Leadership. You also have Strategies for Success, Letters to a CEO, that's one of the most special to me. Let me tell you, I've been reading about that book. It's amazing. You should go right after this show. I'm telling you, to John Spence. That's your website, johnspence.com.
Yeah, that one's available as an ebook through Amazon.
As well, please, let's support John. Go to Amazon, buy the book, by the way, and learn from it. So from these 4 books, what is the most special? What is the special one to you, and why?
Well, it's interesting. The one you mentioned, Letters to a CEO, is fun because it's memos from me back and forth to CEOs I'm coaching all over the world. And it's the actual memo. Someone came to me with a problem and I sent back a note to someone I was coaching in Austria with all my best advice. So that's a fun book. But the one that's the most meaningful to me is Awesomely Simple. And the reason is that is years and years and years of studying. You see, I read about 100 to 120 business books a year, and I have every year since 1989. I've worked with thousands of companies around the world. And what I did is boil that all down into that book. And it's the 6 key principles that I think you need to run a great company. But what I love about that book is that it's got workshops and questions to answer and things to do and interviews. But I've actually taken that book and condensed it down even smaller to a thing I call my formula for business excellence. So let me go through that quickly. These are the 4 fundamental things. I got it from 6 down to 4 that I think that every company needs to focus on to build and sustain a successful company. Whether it's a startup right now, which I think we're going to talk about that in a minute, to a Fortune. I mean, I've worked for Microsoft and Apple. It's the same thing. It's just more zeros. So here it is. It's talent is number 1. And let me make it clear. The success of your business is 100% dependent on the quality of the people that you can get, grow, and keep on your team, which means then that talent acquisition, talent development, and talent retention should be a major strategy, something you focus on, spend time on. And if you're a solopreneur, that's your network of other bright, sharp, smart, talented people that you connect with and talk and help each other. But as a company, and interestingly enough, with the economy the way it is, there are going to be some very talented people available. There's going to be really smart people that get furloughed or laid off or from big companies. So there's going to be a lot of talent available out there. So there's talent. The next one is culture. And you have to have and it's a balance of a winning culture of high engagement where people are having fun and they like what they do and they feel the purpose, matched with a culture of accountability where people deliver business results. The next one is extreme customer focus. We talked about that at the beginning, of being really close to your customer. And the phrase I always use is whoever owns the voice of the customer owns the marketplace. And then the last one is disciplined execution. The other 3 are nice: talent, culture, customers. But if you can't execute on that every single day effectively, then the other stuff doesn't mean anything. So I boiled that. There's that entire book down to one equation.
That is amazing. Now, when you said extreme customer focus, I love that because I always say, like, people will not remember. For example, in my case, I am an entertainer, and people say, like, I always say this: people will not remember what I play, what I perform, but how I made them feel.
Yes.
And you cover so much on this topic that is amazing. So another amazing to you. So
I think I'm up to like 6 now.
6 now.
Total,
Yes.
6 or 7 at least. Yeah. Really very amazing today.
That's awesome. So to me, it is a special, that topic because I am very passionate. I mean, personally, I'm passionate about treating people well with kindness. And you also, and related to that customer topic, it is also, to me, it is also, I think there is value mentioned in treating people well. That it doesn't matter how bad it is or how bad it gets. Let's remain kind to each other. The idea of being kind and being and keep understanding, or at least trying to understand each other, and how you've been explaining so well this what you call framework and
Let me give you another one.
yeah.
And I think it matches perfectly. And I think this is really good advice for anyone now to build a company or to keep their career, build their career, or if they lost their job. Real good friend of mine, Tim Sanders, wrote a book called Love is the Killer App, as an application. And in that book, he talked about 3 things it takes to build a world-class career. Knowledge, network, love. Knowledge, you've got to be really, really good at something that's highly valuable in the marketplace. You've got to have skills, abilities, ideas, innovation, expertise, experience that people see as highly valuable and they're willing to pay for it. Right now, while some of us have more downtime because we're not doing the things we normally do, now's the time to not double down, but triple down on self-learning, to be reading, listening to audiobooks, go and listen to podcasts, watching video shows, watching YouTube videos. everything you can to upskill at the highest level you possibly can of things that are highly valuable in the marketplace. So knowledge that's highly valuable. The next one is network. And by network, I think about a thing called hubs. And a hub is someone by the nature of who they are, if they're really impressed with what you do that's highly valuable, they don't tell 3 or 4 people, they tell 3 or 400 or 3 or 4,000 or even more. When I wrote my book, Awesomely Simple, it was number 1132 on the bestsellers list. Then Guy Kawasaki, the former marketing director of Apple, a friend, but not a close friend, someone I've interacted with a little bit. He read the book. I didn't send it to him. He got it. And he tweeted about it and said, really enjoyed this book. Lots of great ideas. I recommend it. I went from number 1132 on the bestsellers list to number 11 in 3 hours because he has 3 million people that follow him on Twitter. So I'm not saying you find people with 3 million people, but find people who, well, I mean, you would be a good example. By you being in my network and us knowing each other, you're now exposing me to tens of thousands of people around the world. You are a hub. Yay.
Yeah.
So we got knowledge, network, and the last one, which speaks right to what you just said, is love. If you're a loving, kind, honest, generous person, a lot of the right people know that about you. And they also know that you're very, very good at something highly valuable in the marketplace. You have any job at any salary, anywhere in the world that you want. So the 3 questions you have to ask yourself every day is, what did I learn today? Who did I meet today? And did I live my values today? And if every day you focus on those 3 questions, especially now during this crisis, I believe you're going to build a foundation for either staying successful or when this passes, setting yourself up for great success.
John, could you please repeat those 3 one more time, those 3 questions?
Knowledge, network, love. Got to be bright, sharp, smart, talented at something that's highly valuable. A lot of the right people need to know that about you, hubs that have lots of connections. And then you have to be a loving, kind, generous person. Do those 3 things. And then did you want me to repeat the questions?
Oh my God, this is remarkable. No, this is good. This is good, man. Oh my goodness, it is awesome. So I have another question.
Years of studying this and writing about it. So it's something I know a little bit about.
Yeah, no, this is remarkable. This show is remarkable. And I really hope that you guys that are watching.
So I got 7 amazing, 3 remarkables. This is the world record.
This is a good time. So John's book, Awesomely Simple, let me tell you guys that you're watching, has been the staple for many of our local sales managers, especially here in Gator Nation, to achieve record sales result in all over the place here in our region. So let me ask you, John, this book that has been helping so many businesses in different times. It was a different time. Right now, the economy is really, really bad. I will say every single structure everything globally is changing. It is not for good, at least for now. Yeah. So what do you think, what from your books will you recommend right now to a business, a small business, especially small businesses, that they are having a very hard time?
Okay, there's an idea, and we're doing good on time here. There's an idea that I teach that I think has changed a little bit. So in every business, as you interact with your customers, they're what are called touch points. And I always use a restaurant to teach this idea. Here's touch points for a restaurant. Was it easy to find? Was the parking lot clean? Was it attractive? When you got inside, were the seats too hard or too soft? Was it too cold, too hot? Was the music too loud? On and on and on. Those are all touch points. There's about 170 touch points going to a restaurant. But there's only 4 what are called moments of truth. These are the things that make or break the relationship with a customer. Very clear for a restaurant. I've asked people all over the world. They all say the same thing. Good service, good quality food, reasonable prices, super clean. They can do a lot of other stuff right, but if it isn't good food, not going back. If the service is terrible, not going back. If the food is terrible, or no, the food's wildly expensive, I can't afford it, I'm not going back. And the place isn't clean, I'm darn sure no one going back. So here's the point is right now, figure out what are the moments of truth in your business for your customer. And I think they've changed. For a restaurant, it's probably, I hadn't even thought of this. I would have to sit down and think through what are the new moments of truth. And by the way, there's three things to remember here. The best person to tell you what the moments of truth are is your customer. Ask them, what are the 3 or 4 things I have to do right now to delight you, to make sure that you're very, very happy with my product or services? Ask your customer, get close to them. But that's the specific question. What are the 3 or 4 things we need to do right now to take great care of you? Number 2 is you have internal moments of truth as well as external. So there are moments of truth inside of your company, things that you do for each other, that if you don't do those well, there's no way to deliver it to the external customer. AKA, if you don't have all the stuff you need, or someone assigned to clean the bathroom in the restaurant, and someone goes in there, then you have now ruined their experience because someone didn't have the right equipment or it wasn't on the schedule. Which brings me to the third one. Is I'm not a process guy, but here's a really important phrase. If you want repeatable success, you must have process. And if there's anywhere in your business you want process, it's around flawlessly delivering the moments of truth. So out of that whole thing, my backup is figure out what's most important to your customers now. It might not be what it was a month ago, probably likely isn't. Talk to them and ask. Number 2, figure out internally how to deliver that flawlessly every day. And then number 3 is create training and systems and processes to ensure that your people know how to deliver it flawlessly every single time for every single customer.
The amazing thing about another amazing for you about this about these times is like right now we have like apps like Zoom, like you can virtually have meetings and you can keep the trainings. So you see, I think sometimes people, they suffer of possibility blindness. I don't know if you like that.
I love that. I love that.
Possibility.
Wait a minute. Amazing. It's remarkable. It's remarkable and amazing.
Thank you for that, John. Thank you for that. Possibility blindness to me is when we can do so many things to keep moving forward, but people, it's not like they can see it. They don't want to see it. Right. Sometimes. And again, guys, it doesn't mean that it's not available to you. It's just like it is possibility blindness. So to me, it is very interesting when these situations happen, and you've been explaining so perfect how you can manage all these different emotions that you can be going through. And also you've been explaining how you can, instead of going through, you can grow through it and keep working on yourself, keep working on your team, keep growing. So after all of this is gone, because let me tell you something, one day it's gonna be gone, and then so we can go back stronger and better than ever. So that is actually leading me to my next question for you, John. You've been a business and leadership expert, going a little deeper into the economy situation. How you see the economy going in the next 3 to 6 months, and what would be your I would say financial strategy for a business owner?
Wow. Okay. So most of the companies I'm helping right now are having a hard time forecasting out more than 30 days. I work with a lot of companies where we had really solid 1-year plans. So the first thing is to understand that your planning time horizon has now become very short, and it's going to change a lot. It's frustrating a lot of business owners. It's frustrating a lot of employees because, this is the direction we were going. Oh no, it's today it's this way. No, tomorrow it's that way. Normally, I would really give businesses a hard time about not having a clear focus and not getting, because if you're constantly changing, you get no traction. So part of it is that's out of our control, but you need to look at your business on the things you can control. We talked about that, taking care of your talent, things like that. I look up, I don't think it's ever going to go back to the way it was before. I think we're always going to, many of the companies I work with, not many, but several have said, probably 60% of my employees will stay virtual. There's no reason for them to come back to the office. I mentioned a firm that has 181 or 150 so employees. They only have 7 working out of the office now. he figures maybe 50 will come back and the other 50 will continue to work out of their homes. Another thing I've learned, and it's hard to do now, but it's one of the things, is several businesses have said I was over-invested in one industry. All of my clients were in one industry. And when this hit, it wiped me out. So a big lesson has been diversify your client base. Work in a lot of different industries. One of the companies I work with has a new rule: no more than 20% of our business from one industry. We've got to be able to spread it out. And then from a financial standpoint, it's conserve cash. Do what you can. If you had a strong balance sheet going into this, you're in a lot better position. If you didn't, you're going to have to make some really, really tough decisions you do not want to make. And I hope you don't have to make. But you need to think about those now before it gets too late, where you look back and you say, man, we needed to lay some people off a month ago, and that last month of salary took away all our reserves. And then one last thing is take advantage of all the government stuff. And a lot of my businesses, a lot of the folks I work with, they feel bad about that. Like, I've never taken a handout from the government. Take a handout from the government right now. There are loans. There's this stuff for payroll. There's some other stuff. And if you do everything the government tells you, much, if not most of it, can be forgiven. I think you'd be silly not to take full advantage of those. Now, I'm not saying leverage up and take out massive loans, but I am saying if there's something that will help your business, don't have too much pride to put out your hand and say, I need help. Because if you don't, you may not survive. If you do, you'll survive. And I would much rather have people whose businesses took in lots of money from the government, not normally something I would say, but used it to take care of their people, keep jobs, and get their business, hold their business together until we can get out of this and then get back on their own feet.
That is awesome. That is awesome. John, I want to thank you so much for your time, for sharing your knowledge, your gift, all right? Because what you have is a gift of communicating things, and your gift is making the hard stuff awesomely simple. So, guys, I really hope that you are having a blast like me this Friday morning. And I really hope that you are actually paying attention to every single step of how you cannot become a victim of COVID-19, especially emotionally, and how you can keep working on yourself, working on your team, and working on your career, on your goals. Something I'm always passionate about is sharing that no matter how bad it is or how bad it gets, we're going to make it, because I only see ways. I see exits all over the place. I see many different things that we can keep doing and keep building instead of just as John's was teaching us, instead of just being depressed and being complaining and being, focusing on what
Let me offer
we
a
can
tool.
control. Yes.
I've got a newsletter. It's totally free. And what it is you follow me on LinkedIn. All of the stuff that I put up on LinkedIn and everything, this newsletter has AI in it. And it pulls all the best articles. And then as you read it, it watches what you read and it continually customizes the newsletter just to you. So if you really like leadership a lot, it's going to give you more leadership articles than team or whatever it is. So it's run by an algorithm, so it's constantly getting better and better. And I only put stuff in there that impresses me, stuff that I go, that's a good article. So I would encourage your followers, your listeners, to go to my website and sign up for the newsletter/blog. And it doesn't cost anything. And it's about every 2 weeks, it's going to deliver the very best ideas I'm finding to help them after you and I have been on the show together to continue to help them.
Awesome. So, guys, we have three things. We have homework to do. 3 things, including myself. Number one, we got to go to Amazon.com, including myself, because I've been reading, especially Letters to a CEO, unbelievable book. You got it. You need to read that and the other 3 books, but at least one of them, you need to get it right now. Let's go to Amazon. Number 2, you need to follow John Spence all over social media, LinkedIn, especially LinkedIn, because there is great content over there, and he's always posting episodes in different topics. And number 3, you need to execute what we actually been talking about here on the show. Huge. So, John, thank you very much. Again, I feel privileged,
So do I. We had a lot of fun. This has been a true honor.
Oh, A pleasure is all mine. And again, I really hope that everybody is going to execute these ideas and these systems to keep improving their life in a long, long term. So, guys, stay positive, stay tuned, stay happy, and keep working hard and keep working on your dreams and on your goals. Thank you, John, once again. And
Thank
please,
you. It was an amazing show.
we're going to see you guys next time. Another morning coffee with Elio. Guys, thank you very much for watching Morning Coffee with Elio. Yes, we're really looking forward to seeing you Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Do not forget to like us and follow us on Facebook and become part of the Morning Coffee with Elio community. Stay tuned, stay inspired, and live full.